This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
You're listening to the Pretend You're Fired Today podcast. And now, here's your host, Lisa Rangel.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to the 32nd episode of the Pretend You're Fired Today podcast. I'm Lisa Rangel, host of the Pretend You're Fired Today podcast and founder of Chameleon Resumes. We are an executive resume writing, LinkedIn profile development, and job search consultancy firm that helps executives and high potential leaders land their next position faster. And on today's podcast, we're going to discuss effective interview follow-up strategies to do after the interview to help increase your chances to get the offer. Imagine you finally get your resume into the right hands, and then you finally get a chance to interview with those key decision makers within the target company of your dreams, and you prepare well using the guidance we gave you in the prior episodes, and you go on the interview and you know you nail it. You know you did really well. So now, are you ready to make the right moves after the interview to reinforce your position of positioning yourself as the best candidate for consideration? Today, we discuss the strategies on how to do this successfully and reinforce your position as the best candidate for the job after the interview. Savvy executives know that effective interview follow-up continues well after the actual interview. It doesn't stop when the interview's over. So whether you're applying to a corporation or even a search firm, through a search firm, you need to make sure that you are using these interview follow-up steps to uphold that first impression that you made right from the beginning, and you want to carry it throughout the interview process. So I'm a big believer that how you conduct your search, the actions you take throughout your search, subliminally communicates to the employer how you are going to conduct yourself on the job. It's stronger than even the words you say. So you need to continue your follow-up appropriately and professionally to seal the deal. You can't just say you're detail-oriented and then not pay attention to the details, or say you're an assertive follow-up, you keep going until the end and then not follow up in action. You have to be able to follow through with your action. So keep these in mind. Keep these next steps in mind when following up after an interview. First, before the interview even actually ends, ask about the next steps in the process. Show that you want to keep the process going and you're interested. And at the end of the interview, after you've asked other questions about the business, about the position, when they ask you, do you have any questions at that step? The key is to, after you've asked your questions about the business and the job and the culture, is to ask about the next steps in the process. By asking about the next steps, you get an accurate plan, an action plan from that interviewer regarding what's appropriate for follow-up and in what time frame they plan to make the next move or decision. And this way, there's no guesswork on your part. As a former recruiter, it would stun me, frankly, that so few people ended the conversation with this question about, like, what's going on next? I want to know because I want this job and I want to close it and I want to know what to anticipate. So you show more interest in the job when you ask about the next steps. So make sure you do that. Also, take the route of asking for business cards. And if you're in a virtual situation, ask for the business card information for the most part. I'm going to give you some details here. At the end of each interview, ask the interviewer, again, if you can have one of their business cards, because this will help you in writing the thank you note. Business cards make it an easy way to make sure you get the key information for that follow-up, such as correct spelling of names, interviewer's title, you know their exact position, you have their email address or phone number or mailing address if you're going to do a snail mail, express mail type of thank you note. And if the interviewer doesn't have business cards on them, or if you're on a virtual interview, the key is to just make sure you get correct spellings of names, titles, and email addresses. And if you're not entirely sure or feeling a little awkward getting it on the call, if you've been introduced or referred, then ask the person who did the introduction or the referral for the correct information of that person's information of you just interviewed. So that's the key, is to make sure you get it. You always want to make sure you get it, and you want to make sure you have it in correct manner. And then do not underestimate the importance of sending a thank you note and sending that thank you note immediately. This is a key step. Interviewers see multiple candidates over an interview process, and thank you notes are a quick and easy way to distinguish yourself from the competition. You want to emphasize your interest in the position. You want to reference points of your discussion, of your interview discussion, possibly expand on a few more points that you didn't get a chance to expand upon in the interview and you feel needs some clarity. You can use the thank you note for that. And then leave the interviewer with a positive impression about your desire for the job and your qualifications for the job. You can send thank you notes via email or even express mail. The key is to send something tangible. No doubt this will set you apart, but when you send the note, whether it's email or if it's a piece of mail, I would do the piece of mail, snail mail, I would do it in an express format because it can definitely set you apart to send something that the person is getting physically in the mail. But if you do it via snail mail and it comes 2 or 3 days later when other candidates may have sent the thank you note via email that day, you don't want looking different to be at the expense of speed. So just use your judgment if you are going to send express mail, snail mail, I would do it in an express format. But the key is to do it quickly and mindfully. Next, after you've closed the interview, you've sent the thank you note, reach out meaningfully and possibly more than once, even more than twice. Interviewers are very well-intentioned when they give you those next steps. They really want to have things wrapped up in a week or in 2 weeks or get feedback from the whole team and be able to reach out to you in 10 days. Like they really do genuinely mean what they say. But I can tell you as somebody who was a part of that process, a cog in that wheel, is that recruiters don't always have control of the rest of the process as much as they'd like to think they do. And no one communicated to them that the manager they need to get in touch with, is going on a 2-week vacation to Thailand and isn't back for 2 weeks when they were just available yesterday. Or there's a budget meeting of the department that you're interviewing with and they're not having that meeting till Friday and you just interviewed on Monday, so there's no way they can get back to you by the end of the week because they're only going to start discussing it on Friday. So there's so many reasons beyond the recruiter or the hiring manager's control that you just had an interview with. So you need to reach out more than once. It's okay to check in occasionally after the interview. And sending multiple emails or leaving multiple voicemail messages, if a decision will be made and what's the status, that's not going to do you any favors. So the key is to touch base periodically in a way that demonstrates your value and your interest without coming across as pushy or desperate or that this is an item on that interviewer's to-do list that hasn't been done. You don't want that to be the vibe. After the interview, again, you should be asking about the next steps in the process. And once you know it will take about a week, say, as for example, for the company to make a decision, I would gently follow up after about 10 days to check in and see if there's any other information you can provide. And this is obviously if you haven't heard from them. You can demonstrate extra value by attaching an article that you come across that you feel is relevant or that the interviewer would find interesting as it pertains to the job or something you talked about. You can get a few extra points for being useful in a professional context. Remember that you're likely not the only person to be following up regarding this open position. So if you can do something to differentiate your message and your follow-up and your interest as regards to how it compares to the other candidates, this is another opportunity to differentiate yourself. Next, if you don't hear back immediately based on the time frame that they said they would reply back to you, don't assume the worst. I have a saying that I share with all my clients, and I want to share with you right now. In absence of information, don't fill in the blanks. And certainly don't fill in the blanks with negative information that you don't know to be true yet or at all. So filling in the blanks with information you're just guessing, especially negative information that you're guessing, is often not productive. And like I said earlier, recruiters are well-intentioned, but they often don't have full control of the process as much as they'd like to. So chances are they haven't made a decision yet. Chances are the spot is still open. They may have decided to interview more people. Doesn't mean you're out. It just doesn't mean you're in yet. So don't assume you didn't get it. They have good intentions, but it doesn't necessarily work out the way they intend. So always keep in mind that no news doesn't necessarily mean bad news. Maintain a positive attitude and try not to dwell on it if you haven't yet to hear back from someone based on the time frame that they said they would. Next, remain confident in what you have to offer. In sending those follow-up emails every 7 to 10 business days, I think of Facebook or even LinkedIn for that matter. You can get an update from somebody based on what they post, and you know what's going on with them without ever having a conversation with them nowadays. So I view these emails that you send to follow up almost as if it was a Facebook post. The person sees it. They know that you're interested, but they may not email you back. They may not feel that there's a need for discussion because they don't have any additional information yet. So the key is to reiterate your interest, stay on their radar. That's the tone of the email. I know when you get additional information, you're going to reach out. In the interim, know that I'm still really excited. Here's an extra piece of information that I wanted to talk to you about based on our conversation. And I just wanted to stay on your radar, and I look forward to your follow-up when you have more information. It's almost like a status update email you're sending. They still know you're interested. They see you're being really positive. They see you're being resilient in face of things not going your way. Those are all positive traits that you can demonstrate as part of the search that will show you the employer, the potential employer, on how you will conduct yourself when things don't go your way and they don't act as timely as you expect on the job. So again, I feel like the job search process, the actions and the reactions that people have on a job search process are often very indicative of what will happen when they're on the job. So keep that in mind. This is, to me, one of the most important pieces of advice that I give our clients. Don't just sit and wait on this one position. Keep your job search moving along always. Don't sit and wait. It's like watching a pot of water boil. It can take forever. And frankly, keeping the process moving and always looking for new leads, this tactic will preserve your sanity. And frankly, in my opinion, I've seen it over and over again, it really gives you a greater chance of ultimate success. Even if the opportunity you're waiting to hear from is about your dream job. If you sit around and wait for that company to get back to you, it's going to drive you nuts. Keep the search going. Reach out to new leads. Start a new process while you're waiting for that one to come in. You can always stop a process if the offer comes in. Go for a run. Head out to meet a friend. Do things to distract yourself in a constructive way from this opportunity, because you need to give yourself a fresh perspective from things if and when they do call back. Again, think positive, so when they call back. And frankly, by keeping other opportunities in play, you're maintaining your leverage with this dream job opportunity. So when it comes in, you don't have a vibe that this is all you got going. Because if you have that vibe, they're going to pick up on it, and it's going to affect the salary negotiation. But if you have a vibe and a confidence that comes from having other opportunities in play, they're going to feel it. The employer's going to feel it. And I know it will ratchet up your salary and your offer when they make that offer, because they're going to want to capture you as opposed to thinking you're an easy mark. So maintain your leverage by continuing to explore other options. And frankly, if the offer doesn't come through, while that will be devastating, because you now have other things in play, it's easier to just kind of pick up and keep going, as opposed to now having the devastation of the offer not coming in and needing to start all this over again. Don't do that to yourself. And like I said, most importantly, on a positive note, keeping things in play will help your negotiation with the dream job. So keep things in play. Don't sit and wait for things. If you don't feel prepared to do all of these actions confidently that I mentioned, and you feel like you can use some help, some personalized help, know that we're here for you. And you can go to pretendyourfiredtoday.com/coaching, and you can hire us to coach you through this process or any other part of the search process that you feel like you're struggling with. If you found this helpful and you want some more interview prep resources, you can also go to interviewprepsheet.com. You can download our interview prep sheet, and this will allow you in a self-directed way to ensure you have all your bases covered and that you're ready to crush the interview and nail this part of the process. And then if you find you need more personalized guidance for your particular situation, after all, everyone's unique, you can hire us and go to pretendyourfiredtoday.com/coaching, and you can hire us for job search, interview, or salary offer coaching. So this way you don't have to do it alone, and you can maximize your performance in any of these activities. Again, the coaching resource you can be found at pretendyourfiredtoday.com/coaching. In past episodes, we talked about the only way to truly protect yourself from job loss is to pretend you're fired today, make a list of activities you would do to start finding your next job, and then start doing those activities proactively while you're still working. This will help you keep yourself in demand when you don't need a job. So then if your situation changes and you do need a job, you already have your network primed and it's active, and you're in the forefront of your network's mind. So you've created demand for yourself. So finding another job will be a lot easier than starting this off from scratch when you need it. You want to start it before you need it. You want demand for your skill set when you need it, so you need to create it before you need it. This way, again, if your job situation changes unexpectedly, you already have pent-up demand for what you do by doing these actions that I've talked about today and in prior episodes. For the next few episodes of the Pretend You're Fired Today podcast, we're going to continue to go through a list of tactics and activities that you can do now, as if you were let go today, to ensure that you're always ready for whatever the world brings your way. And the first item on this list, on the Pretend You're Fired Today list, was get your resume in order. We cover that in episodes 1 through 8. And the second item on the Pretend You're Fired Today action list was updating or even redoing your LinkedIn profile, depending on when was the last time you did it. And you can review how to do that in episodes 9 through 12. And in the last dozen or so episodes, some of the topics we covered in job search, interview coaching, and salary negotiation were how to work with recruiters, how to make new relationships at conferences. We also discussed how to handle the culture fit interview questions and that infamous, aren't you overqualified for this job question. We cover that. We cover so many other topics. You're going to want to revisit those episodes to make sure you have all of those pieces of the puzzle ready to put in play when needed. I'm so proud of you for taking these next steps, making yourself marketable when you don't just quite need it. Because most people wait and don't do this, and then the unexpected job change happens, and then they're scrambling to learn all this information while under the umbrella of stress that comes from trying to land a new job quickly. And so seriously give yourself a major pat on the back, some serious kudos for doing this before you need it and putting it into practice. I'm so proud of you. My friend saved me with her priceless advice of pretend you're fired today, and I'm paying it forward with you. And I ask you to pay this sentiment forward and share this podcast with as many executives and rising professionals who you feel would benefit from the create demand before you need it advice. It's so paramount to career security nowadays. It's really about building the demand. That's how you have career and job security nowadays. No one job is going to last forever. And doing the preparation suggested in this episode will prepare you to interview and negotiate on behalf of yourself confidently. In our next episode, we'll discuss how to answer the salary question. What salary are you looking for question to make sure you get what you deserve. And once you do the right follow-up, as we discussed today, you increase the chances of that offer coming. So you want to make sure that you're able to answer this question powerfully and confidently to set that stage to negotiate the salary and compensation that you want. So you're going to want to tune in for the next episode, not miss that. And until then, go to interviewprepsheet.com to download our prep sheet. And this way you can be ready for the next session. And also, if you find that you're struggling with the topic that we discussed today or any prior topic and you want some personalized coaching to help with your individual situation that's so unique, go to pretendyourfiredtoday.com/coaching and you will be able to hire us to help you directly. So I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Be well.
This is the podcastfactory.com.